Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. You got Bucks and Brian here to do our final positional breakdown. If you are new here, this is where we deep dive position by position. And on tonight's episode, we are going to go down and dirty into the dog pound to find the best goal scorers in the FPL game. We're looking solely at the forward options for this season. I'm Bucks. So glad to be here wearing my favorite jersey, my Didier Drogba, one of my favorite ever strikers on the back.
Very slick.
And I'm joined by a man also wearing a very fancy kit. Chinny, USMNT. Like that a lot. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm recovering after being in New York for a couple days. It was great to see you in person. Great to see my team through some work events, and now I'm just catching up with the little baby, having a beer, and just enjoying the weekend. So I'm glad we made it. Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers.
Good
Yeah,
to see
we
you
made
in New
it.
York.
We hung out. We did our first in real life podcast. I think it came off without too much of a wobble.
Considering we were using one microphone and just doing it live, me off of happy hour, missing my subway connections and showing up a little late, it was good. It was good. I was happy that your wife put up with us for a couple hours.
Yeah, I'll have it be known that I only got a couple of lashes for going well over time, but she was very happy that I cleared out some of my sneaker boxes, so
That's right.
kind of evened out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I posted on my social. I was like, get you a bestie who wears your same shoe size. And then I came home and Laura was like, what are these?
Yeah, what are those?
Yeah, my wife. Oh, man. But now we have less than a week before we have to be making real big time FPL decisions for our game week 1 squads. We've gone through the defenders and the keepers. We did midfield mania last week, and now here we are, the forward preview. So, Bucks, we starting it from the top here. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. It is fully nut crunching time. Like you said, the season is right around the corner.
I'm not ready.
Next week at this
I'm not
time.
ready. I was tinkering this morning. I'm like, I have too many variations of kind of 4 or 5 moving parts.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, listen, we're a week away. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road. There will be the most news. We still have a Super Cup to watch, and there's kind of the final round of friendlies. We're recording this Saturday night, August 9th. So the transfer window is even still open for another 3.5 weeks. So there's still a lot that we're going to learn between now and kind of the first international break, which will take place after game week 3. But next week, in 7 days' time, we're going to be standing here and having had watched 9 of the 10 Premier League opening matches. I could not be more psyched. I'm so jacked up about this.
And we have a opening fixture on Friday where we're going to probably have multiple Liverpool assets. So I need to book off some time in my work calendar for at least an hour and take my full lunch break and make sure that nobody's bothering me on Slack while I try and calculate my FPL points, and maybe
that's like a good opportunity for a one-on-one versus, you go out and you
an NPC
kind of deep dive someone's book of business, and you just have your eye on your FPL page while you're doing it.
Yeah, that might have to happen because we got some big decisions before the first deadline of the season. So without further ado, let's get into it, Bucks. Let's start from the top with the most expensive striker in the game, and that is one Erling Haaland. He scores today.
Before we go into the robot himself, I do want to just mention one thing. What? I think, we've been doing the positional group breakdowns for a number of seasons now. In previewing every position group, which I do happily every season, this was actually the toughest position group to carve down and to, parse out what the 3 options I'm going to go for was in my FPL career. I think the pricing is excellent, and there's still so much unknowns with all the movement that's taken place of new strikers coming in from top other leagues, and just the uncertainty around Newcastle specifically, who's going to be their striker if Alexander Isak goes to Liverpool. So there's just a chain reaction of potential landing spots for other strikers that are in the FPL game that we still have a lot of questions around. So with that, like I said, Brian, I think this is a great place to go to the only, there's only two certainties at the striker position, I think, this season. And those are kind of the mega, you have zero doubts about whether they are world-class strikers. And that's Erling Haaland. He's the most expensive at 14 million. And then Alexander Isak, who's a little less than him at 10.5 million. So let's start with the robot himself. He's someone that's making it into your thoughts for game week 1, or you are not considering him whatsoever based on that price?
No, I think he's a great pick. I think he's going to end up with the golden boot this season. I think that we're going to see a substantial bounce back year from him if he can stay healthy. And I just kind of view the season that City had last year as a blip in Pep's radar, and I expect them to be right up there this season in contention to win it all. So I'm
interesting.
very bullish on the signings that they made this season. Now, how long it takes for all those signings to gel in the Premier League, which is going to be much stiffer competition than they were facing in the Club World Cup when they started integrating a lot of those.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, when they started integrating a lot of those players, it might take them 6 to 8 weeks. So from my perspective, I haven't seen Haaland in too many sides, but I think you were dropping some knowledge on me while I was out in New York, and you were saying that he's an absolute beast historically through the first 6 matches. So he's a great pick if you're going to fit him in. I just don't see the value in the points per million if you're going to go with both Haaland and Salah to start the season.
Yeah, it's a great point that you're bringing up. I think really the question comes down to captaincy. And at the end of each deadline, you only can captain one player. So it feels great when you look at your team and you're like, listing the players off, I have Salah, I have Palmer, and I have Haaland. But each and every game week, only one of those guys is earning double points. And especially if you have Haaland and Salah, that's almost 30% of your full team's budget tied up in just 2 guys. So that makes it, from a setup perspective, kind of unbalanced. But what I was telling you in person, Haaland in his career is a historically fast starter. I mean, last season, I triple captained him in the single game week where he had a hat trick against Southampton. That was amazing. I loved every second of that. And he set the record in FPL for the most ever points through 4 games, where he had 56 points. The season before, he also, I think, had 50 points. And in the Bundesliga, in the first 5 matches of his final season at Dortmund, I think he had something crazy like 11 goal involvements in 5 games. So This guy, when the lights are on and when it's time to score goals, he's arguably the best in the world at just getting the ball in the back of the net. Now, I actually think Isak is a more complete striker, but it's hard. I have a couple of versions of my draft with Haaland in.
Interesting.
I admittedly, looking at them next to the other teams that I'm making, I like them a little less than I do kind of a more balanced setup. So it's really pick your poison. And I think Haaland is a very viable captaincy option going against Wolves in game week 1, especially with the way Wolves are playing this preseason. They've played 6 times. They have 0 wins. Rough. So, I know no clean sheets.
You were in the DMs hitting up at FPL Black Wolf.
I mean, it's scary season if you're a Wolf supporter like our comrade Black Wolf.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Haaland have 22 goals last season, and everyone was like, he was shit. And he never really looked good outside of those. Yeah, like outside of those first 7 matches, he never really got going compared to his previous seasons. So, I mean, I would be very surprised, though, if he doesn't get to 32 goal involvements this year. Goals and assists, maybe
sounds like you are thinking of having him, Brian. 32 goal involvements, and you're going to skip him?
Yeah, I'm going to skip him to start the season, but especially when we're going to have AFCON and there's a big kind of shifting in the fixture swings when we're looking around potential game week 13 wild cards, game week 12 wild cards. He's going to be a big part of the middle part of my season. So, I think I think we should talk about the players that City brought in just briefly. I know we covered a lot of them in the midfielders pod, but a few just clinical classy players that will continue to build rapport with Haaland, and the service should be better. Cherokee is a mastermind with the ball, and we'll see if he can connect with Haaland. Although I was watching on social them shithousing each other already, pushing each other around in one of the practices. So
I think that's a good sign, though. Iron sharpens iron, and Haaland
give me the
expects
bleeping ball.
Yeah, good, and he should, because every time he gets the ball in a dangerous spot, it seems like the ball ends up in the back of the net. Another one, Reinders. He had a smash and grab second half of preseason today. Came on at halftime, had a brace, easily could have had a hat trick. He tripped over his own feet after doing all the hard work of getting around the keeper. So he could have had a 45-minute hat trick. He's priced at $5.5 million. I mean, they have Nori now that's going to be bombing up the left-hand side in defense. He's priced as a premium. I just think the team in general got younger, got more creative, and got more explosive.
We should see less of Gundo and Bilva, to be honest, in a lot of these matches. Like maybe when they go for like trying to break down the low blocks, you might see those guys just be a little bit more savvy and in Pep's side. But against the other 2/3 of the league, like I just think that the firepower that they brought in will only help Haaland. So stay away from me
and
for
also
game week one. But
we can't not mention, right? We can't not mention that Rodri re-injured himself. So he's going to be missing at least
noodle for him.
It's, coming back from an ACL was no joke. And we talk about this in the NBA, which we're both fans of. It really is a 2-season injury. So you race back and you put yourself at risk to getting injured again. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Rodri. I don't expect he's going to have FPL relevance. We will hear from him as he makes appearances and has an impact for City. But that just opens up another spot in the team for one of these new guys to come in and cement their name into the starting 11. So one name is for sure in the starting 11 every game week for Pep at the beginning of the season. That's going to be Erling Haaland. So if you don't want to deal with the Pep roulette, you got to pay a premium to get their best player and their goal scorer. Haaland's that guy. So I think it's a good price. He doesn't deserve to be more than Salah, but he deserves to be right in that same bracket.
Yep. And a player who outscored the robot last season is Alexander Isak, currently
next up
at Newcastle, 10.5 mil. Fantastic season last year, propelling Newcastle to Champions League. And really, I mean, a bit of a cheat code, to be honest. I think he is, like you said, so complete, can dribble, can pass, can head in the air. He's got it all.
Both feet,
outside the box,
he can run with the ball.
Box.
He's everything.
Yeah. I think the only thing that people hold against him a bit is his light frame. So he does pick up a few knocks here and there. But if he's sharing time with Ekitike, then I think he could be very much healthy most of the season. But, what are your expectations? He's a complete stay away until we hear if he's going to move to Liverpool, which is based on all the things happening in the transfer market. Liverpool seem to be selling off enough players to raise the funds to also spend 1.5x of whatever they have in the past. I mean, he's going to go for 150, 160 mil.
Yeah. Sheesh. So I expect that he will he'll smash the existing all-time transfer record, which is currently Florian Wirtz. That Liverpool
business, Bucks. It's big business.
I mean, honestly, he has 3 years left on the contract. So I think Newcastle are doing what they should be doing and playing hardball a little bit with him and with Liverpool. They should not just accept the fee just because the player wants it. He's under contract and, nothing else is going right for Newcastle this offseason. So
brutal.
At least they can secure the bag if they're losing their far and away best player. So for me, I agree with you. He's a complete stay away. I love the player. I mean, he's one of the players that I turn on the TV, and when Newcastle are playing, it's almost like you can't help but look at this guy the entire match because he's always involved. He's always doing awesome shit. But his ceiling is likely higher for FPL if he stays at Newcastle. And I think that's a little bit of a conundrum because he will have penalties. He'll be an every game week starter, whereas the floor is much higher if he makes the move to Liverpool. Because I think Liverpool, in general, stronger attack. He'll be central to everything they're doing, but he won't have penalties. He'll just be surrounded by a lot better creative attacking players. So Like we said, I
I'm
think
not so sure
Alexander
I agree
Isak.
with that, to be honest. I think he could the
Really? Okay.
amount of tap-ins that Diaz and Gakpo like kind of got over the last couple years. I mean, Isak had 23 goals last year, 19 non-pen. So 4 penalties, like that's not a ton, right? Like we've seen Salah and Holland have double digits before in the past, right? So like I just
It's a
think
good
that
point.
he could easily, there are going to be matches where you're going to see Verts carrying the ball from midfield, passing it out to Salah. Salah's going to be putting in a perfect pass to Isak for a tap in like so many
Oh, for
times. And
sure.
then all these passes that Mo has had in the past to that fucker Darwin on the left wing or wherever he is and just completely flutzing it up. Like Isak's going to be clinically finishing those. And
I
I think he's
agree, but I
going to be
think the
interesting.
issue is there's just more mouths, right? And at Newcastle, kind of the narrative was if Isak's in the box, stay the F out of his way. Whereas at Liverpool, I just think they're so fluid in attack that it might be Verts arriving, it might be Gakpo, it might be Salah going all the way by himself. It could even be, they could wait for Frimpong, for Kirkes, and for Van Dijk to show up and to bury the ball into the back of the net. So
Yeah.
just based on that, I think the no penalties and the more mouths to feed makes me think that his FPL value is actually better at Newcastle.
Yeah, I feel like Slot was a bit conservative last year in going for the jugular in a few of those matches.
Agreed. Yeah.
Whereas, and obviously they shored up defensively and they let a lot less XG in on that side of the pitch. But I kind of wonder with these additions if they're going to go back more to just more of an all-out attack that they had under Klopp. So it'll be interesting to see. But I don't. There's basically any time that Liverpool takes the pitch, I expect them to score 3 or 4 goals versus probably 75% of the Premier League if
Totally
Isak
agree.
goes there. So, all right, let's skip
One
the
last
rest
thing,
of
Brian. Breaking
that
news.
from
Pew,
me.
pew, 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 pew,
Pew,
pew.
pew.
Breaking news. Anthony Gordon today was playing false nine for
AGO.
Newcastle. Bad going to worse for these guys in the offseason. He comes off with a leg injury. He hobbled straight down the tunnel. I mean, it's just they can't get anyone in the transfer window. They keep getting snubbed. And now their second best attacking player goes off with what could be a pretty serious injury. So going from bad to worse right now.
Yeah, you hate to see it. That's I mean, nothing's going right. They spend 40 mil on a center back that they don't truly need. So that's at least some depth, but they're going to be very far behind in the transfer window. So, I mean, part of me wonders if Newcastle should just, take the 160 mil or whatever it is. And so you can kind of have those dominoes fall because you're really starting the season, behind the 8 ball. You're going to bring in new players to replace Isak and replace that big wage bill. And those guys are going to take time to get up to speed, and then all of a sudden you're start the season with only a couple points on the board. So
they're going to be fighting with hand tied behind their back to start out. Let's go to the next section. Sorry to drop that in at an inopportune time. I just saw it cross my timeline and I figured the listeners should be aware just like we are. Next best nearly elite striker options. This is kind of the 9 million to 8 million price bracket.
Very compelling.
I think it's very interesting names here, but we should mention that Benjamin Sesko, yet to be priced into the FPL game, he's going to be leading the line for Manchester United. That is officially a here we go, done deal.
What's your prediction there, Bucks?
I think he might be the same as Mbomo and Cunha at 8 million. So I just wanted to mention him here. He could easily be 7.5 million, but I think 8 million will be the right price for him. So I just want to mention him before we go through the other names. What do you think, Brian?
I'm hoping for 7.5, just in terms of looking at Cunha and Bumo, who are proven Premier League players with pedigree and have been the talisman and the main man on their sides. The Sesko guy, like he definitely is a talent. He's 22. He's a big frame, but I've also seen some highlights of like a little bit of Darwin in him. So I don't know. We'll see how he can mature at Old Trafford.
You watch like a Uruguayan football match or something? Why you got Darwin on your mind so much? The guy's off to Saudi Arabia. We never have to think about him again.
I know, but whenever there's a new striker with a high price tag, you kind of compare him to Darwin, I would say.
Yeah, especially from the Bundesliga. All right, let's go through the options that we know in true hardcore facts are in the FPL game and what we know about them. First and foremost, nicknamed the Junkyard Dog, here officially on this podcast, coming in at 9 million Great British pounds to your FPL team, leading the line for Aston Villa, Ollie Watkins.
16 goals, 8 assists last year in a very up and down season for him, as he was playing less minutes than he ever has. I think that was one thing that we loved about Watkins, is that he was basically nailed on to play 3,100 plus minutes. But
Yep.
with John Duran banging around, putting in some goals last season, and then the push
he was injured. They had Rashford coming in.
Yep.
Yeah,
They had Rashford, Asensio playing, false nine at times. Just an interesting season from him. But in terms of their opening fixtures, pretty good opening fixtures. You're looking at Newcastle at home, Brentford away, Crystal Palace at home, Everton away, Sunderland away, and then Fulham at home, Burnley home too. This is a great run. Like you should definitely be looking to have at least one attacker from Villa in your side. Is basically what I see when I see those fixtures. So
yeah, the harder matches seem to be at home, which is always good. You back the Villa Park crowd to get their boys up for the occasion.
Get up.
And, Watkins is just Premier League proven. He's absolutely nailed, especially with some of the departures that have left Villa this offseason. And he's coming off back to back 20-plus goal involvement seasons. So 2 seasons ago, he actually had, I believe, 20 goals and like 14 assists. That was his best ever campaign. I expect with the certainty of minutes, even though it's a lesser Villa team around him based on what's happened in the transfer market, I still think we're going to get pretty close to 27 to 30 goal involvements this season. So I think 9 million is a great price. It would be amazing if we knew he was on penalties, despite him not being the most clinical at them. Because then I think if you knew he had penalties, he'd almost like auto pick himself. You'd have to have Ollie Watkins with the opening fixtures.
It's funny, Bucks, that the way that you're talking about the penalties, this whole group of players, actually, we're not sure if any of them have penalties, which is interesting because they're all priced like they're going to get 25,
right?
Like they're going to get 20 to 25 goal involvements this season from the 8 to 9 million mark. And when you're looking at Watkins, Gyökeres, Bowen, Ekitike, Sesko, I don't think any of those players might have pens. So it's kind of crazy that they're priced so high. And I think that's where in the long run, you might be losing some value compared to those lower quality players, maybe a little bit lower of a ceiling, but have those pens, which is something that I'm considering when I'm building my front line right now.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think there's every chance that Watkins is on penalties. I mean, Tielemans, I don't think is going to be on the pitch nearly as much as Ollie is. So, if he's not number 1, he's probably number 2 in the pecking order to take them. Whereas, I think if we skip Gyökeres, who we'll talk about in a moment, I think Jarrod Bowen will be on penalties. I think he's clearly the West Ham talisman. And as good as Paqueta is at them, the guy hasn't played competitive Premier League football in months, whereas Jarrod Bowen was literally the hottest Premier League goal scorer in the entire league to end last season. And he's picked back up from there in the preseason. So I see no reason to take the ball away from your best player when it comes to those kind of crucial moments in a match. And so I think Bowen at 8 million, I know we're skipping ahead here. I also think he's excellent value because he might not be playing true striker, but the way that West Ham end up finishing plays when it comes to shooting, he tends to be the furthest forward and often the one taking those shots. So I think he could be excellent value, reclassified from a midfielder to now be a forward this season. Makes it a little easier to fit him in, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. Bowen is just one of those players who feels like he's been around for forever at West Ham, right? I mean, how many seasons has he been at the top of his game and really put in a ton of, ever since 2021, 140 points plus in every season. He's got a 200-point season last year, 193. And when you're even looking at the projections for him, even with the change of losing the point for a goal and then the clean sheets, which obviously West Ham kept fuck all last season, but he would have gotten a lot more bonus for the goals that he would have scored, with 13 goals and 11 assists last season. Just phenomenal player, somebody that seems to be cemented at West Ham instead of ever being rumored to get a move out. But he's a good pick. Sunderland at home, game week 1. Then their fixtures get a bit dicey though, and I think he was a player that I was looking at for like a long-term hold, but I think I might try and ride his purple patch when the fixtures are better. Game week 2, Chelsea, NFO, Tottenham, Crystal Palace, Everton, Arsenal. Not a great run after
Yeah,
that Sunderland
the
away
opening
fixture.
game
So
week 1 fixture is exceptional. It gets pretty up and down from there. One thing to mention though, because we do have the DEFCON points to be mindful of. Jared Bowen is the only forward priced up till this point that got a single DEFCON point
yeah,
last season.
really,
I think he got 12 or 11. No one else got a single one. So
he's a hustler. He's a hustler.
yeah,
That guy.
he's a good worker bee. Let's go to the next guy. These are 2 new names to the Premier League. Let's start with the more expensive one. That's
time.
Victor Gyökeres. He's going to be leading the line for Arsenal.
Get yoked.
Comes over from Sporting, and he actually can score headers, as he proved today in their preseason match. Love to see that. I know our mate in the group chat, Corey, who's a big Arsenal fan at the Run CMC, he was saying, see, guys, he is a complete striker after all. Unfortunately, Arsenal did not win that game in regular time like they might have maybe should have, and they went to penalties to get the business end of that result. So
no, that's a different match, Bucks. You're getting your preseason matches
who gives
up,
a fuck? It's
preseason.
It was
a 3-0 win today, but it was funny because he had a great header in the first half, and then he had a second half header that went off the post. It was a much more difficult one, but two big chances that he could have gotten. I just think he's just in the mold of that player who is up for the challenge. 27 years old. He's coming off of nearly 100 damn goals scored over the last couple seasons, and I'm really eager to see if he's going to take pens off of Saka. But overall, I would think that this is the player that will help push Liverpool and help push Man City this year for the title. And I think one thing I do like about him, he's jacked. Like, he's yoked.
Yeah.
He's a player who is like, he will make those runs time and time again. Like, he's very much in tune with his body. And I saw a lot of that in some of the highlights, just really, especially in Champions League when he was at his best versus City. I mean, getting behind that back line and just punishing the center backs every time to try and keep up with him. And if they can just kind of adapt their style, they haven't had this type of striker before. And so I think it might take a little bit of time to bed in, but once it gets right, he should be on, I would say, 20 goals, 18 to 20 goals this Premier League season if everything goes right for Arsenal and they're at the top.
Yeah, he's the biggest, I think, singular upgrade to their starting 11. He's so much better and more complete than Kai Havertz is, who's now the backup. I just think a lot of what you just said, I want to echo that. The fact that he is a gym rat, and you can clearly see that when he puts the jersey on the pitch. I mean, this guy is in great shape, despite the fact that he is, very much in the prime of his career, which
27.
often means that you kind of pass getting the top dollar value on the market. He's never played in the big 5 leagues. So he's coming from Portugal, which is much lesser competition, but he looks like, from a physical perspective, he's up
on Brighton for a cup of coffee.
Nah, that's like when he was wearing diapers. And so for me, I think, just coupling with some uncertainty about whether he's on penalties and the Arsenal opening fixtures, which are quite difficult outside of, I believe it's Leeds that they play in game week 2.
Yep.
Right. I think he's a clear wait and see, but I think, especially if you're planning an early wild card, Gyökeres is probably one of those players that is fueling the reason that you're thinking about that early chip usage. So he will have FPL value, and he could smash this price point based on the team he's playing with and his own abilities.
Yeah, and if he takes pens, like I said, and that's something that
gotta get him in.
Saka has been known to just give them away willy-nilly to his teammates who want a little bit of a goal tally increase. And so if that happens, that would be big. I think Saka's fine at pens, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like a scar from the Euros way back when, or when
no, he's very good at them. He's
I don't know. I'm not as confident in him for some reason. I don't know why that bias is there, but I would like the 9.0 guy have it instead. So
I'll say this, having played the game, right, when in the teams I played on, and I was never a very good player, like nowhere close to top level, but My coaches always thought that the forward should take the penalty because their job is to score goals. So, it's kind of like if you give Steph Curry a wide open three and he sees the ball go through and ripple the net. I feel like strikers have that same energy. So as soon as you see the ball in the back of the net, they're more likely to get the second one at that point. So that's why I would like it.
Yeah. Lastly, I just want to add,
and for FPL, of course.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I think there's a good case to have Watkins in your side at 9 million to start the season with the fixtures that Villa have. But if all of a sudden we see Gyökeres banging in brace after brace in the first couple matches, it's an easy price point to have in your side that you can hopefully make one move or make two moves, and you don't have to rip up your team. Whereas if you're only looking to go with very light forwards and have 6.5s, it's hard to find 2.5 million to move that. So it's just something to note. I think I've seen that quite a bit across the community, and to me, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's go to Hugo Ekitike. He's the other newbie. He's joining Liverpool from Eintracht Frankfurt, under 23. He had a major breakout season for Frankfurt this past season. The counting and advanced stats, if you're into that, absolutely love this guy. He's like top of the global under 23 striker list for pretty much every important category. Take-ons, dribbles, XG, XGI, expected goals per shot. It's amazing. His stats really show that he is a top-level player in the making. The only issue is he joined a very senior team that if they bring in Alexander Isak, he might all of a sudden be £100 million backup, which is kind of crazy to think about. So I think for now he is just a wait and see. He does not have FPL value, in my opinion, in game week 1. So unless Slot kind of really changes the system to go 2 strikers at the top and kind of pushing Mo Salah further wide, it's kind of hard to see if Isak comes in where Ekitike plays into the Liverpool starting 11. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that he came at the same price as Florian Wirtz, both at 8.5 million. I did not like that. He should have been priced less than Wirtz, given the pedigree and the proven performance we've seen in Champions League plus international play and having won at Bayer. So yeah, 8.5 million. Don't love it. I think it's a complete stay away. He could come into our thinking if you want that triple up on a free hit, but I don't see me ever owning this player this season in his first year in the Premier League. I think it's
that's a big claim.
I think it's gonna be rough for him, especially if Isak comes in. I mean, this is a player that will be playing in all the cupcake matches, in the Mickey Mouse Cups, and those things. But I think he's going to have a really rough time. And mentally, it's just a weird position to be in because his camp would have sold him on being the starting 9 for
of one of the best teams in the world. And your agent, when you're getting £100 million offers, unfortunately, just the way the sport is going, £100 million kind of falls off the back of a delivery truck for every other team these days. So
yeah, that's right. So yeah, I think he's a complete stay away. I think he's going to have a rough season. Just mentally, he's going to have to be coming in and stay really mentally strong, and the team's going to have to prop him up a bit if he's not going to play more than 1,500 minutes in the Premier League this season because his, Isak the God's coming over.
I'll just say I kind of disagree with that take a little bit because of Champions League and Liverpool's ambition this season, coming off the back of this amazing barnstormer of a year where, they just really blew the doors off the rest of the Premier League. They had the title won before the calendar turned over to May.
They were on pace last year. Then they fumbled the bag, man. What happened?
No, you won when you're 12, 14 points up with 5 games left.
I'm talking about their other cup competitions where heavy favorites, and then they just fell off.
The hunger is real, and I think
PSG they got absolutely crushed.
PSG were the great level that every team was measured against last season. I know the Club World Cup. I won't take that too seriously. Maybe I will. Who knows?
We'll take the trophy.
But let's just say that I think Ekitike is going to play probably close to 2,000 minutes in the Premier League. But I think come, the nut crunching point of the season where it's Champions League and it's Premier League and it's must win, if Isak comes in, he's getting all those minutes.
Yeah,
So
plus
we're kind of saying the same thing.
at 8.5, even if they shoehorn him into the left, Gakpo's 7.5 midfielder. So he's just a terribly priced pick. He's garbage.
But in
We're not
AFCON,
going to have him.
he should be. Yeah, we're pulling at strings here.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go to the next bracket. I've titled this the historical sweet spot. I mean, in my career of playing FPL, I always had at least one 7.5 to 6.5 million striker option, if not several. And this is the most crowded price point.
Yeah. All right, Bucks. We've already gone over half an hour on the top guys. So we'll keep it a little bit more succinct here when we're going through these players. But from the top, let's shout out the newest Brighton/Chelsea player,
João Pedro. 7.5 million. He's owned by over 50% of the game. He's the second highest owned player right now behind Mo Salah. And I think it's insanely high. But every time he comes onto the pitch for Chelsea, he seems to score goals. He came fresh off vacationing on the beaches of Rio to the Club World Cup. Immediately was scoring goals for Chelsea. He came on as a late substitute in their preseason match, his first time playing in a Chelsea shirt at the Bridge. He scored again. And the Chelsea fixtures are incredible. So, the only downside is he's going to be competing with Delap for minutes. So we know he's not a full 90s guy. And he has no penalties. And he's never scored double-digit open play goals in a season. But the fixtures are so nice, and this Chelsea team are so good at creating chances. He's going to be in my team. I mean, maybe I'm a casual for saying that, but he's going to be there.
Yeah, I just see him having a lot of 1 goal, 1 assist types of performances in this Chelsea side.
Sign me up.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
I just think the link-up play that he can provide is going to be a new dimension of his game where he can rely on somebody like Cole Palmer to actually put the ball in the back of the net. And I don't know, Brighton was just a very confusing team to always watch. I don't know, what was going to happen at any given time when the ball is being passed around the box, or if somebody's going to take a shot from 35 feet, or if Matoma is going to do something. It was just very hard to predict, whereas I think Chelsea is just much more straightforward this season with the talent that they have up front. And, game week 1, he's the starter based on what we saw. And
of course, absolutely.
with the big news that, Nico Jackson is going to be on his way out. And so at this point in his career, Liam Delap is going to have to earn, his chances to start. But in the Premier League, I expect JP to play 70 plus minutes, and then we'll see Delap deputize a lot in the other cup fixtures for Chelsea early doors. So that's how I see
Agreed.
it. 7.5 is a very nice price point to get a second attacker, where most people don't really rate Neto in terms of being a second Chelsea midfielder. And it just looks nicer in your team to have a Chelsea forward and then Palmer versus having 2 midfielders in your FPL team in Neto and Palmer.
I agree, but I want to take it a step further because I actually think João Pedro can play alongside Delap, and there will be matches where he plays at the 10 and Delap plays at the 9, and they're interchanging, and Palmer sometimes is, switching with both of them. I think he's a very versatile player. He's going to get lots of chances in this Chelsea team. Yeah. And in my opinion, Chelsea, if they're not in the top 2, they're solidly the 3rd best attack in the Premier League.
Interesting.
Right behind Liverpool and Arsenal.
All right, I have a question from one of our hashtag FPL USA group chats, Mr. at FPL Dallas. He wants to know why João Pedro is not Gabriel Jesus in terms of FPL and then in terms of their impact on the team, because he's comparing the 2 Brazilians almost 1-to-1. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. And Gabby J, when he came to Arsenal the first couple of months, he was on fire. He was in everybody's team. He was 8.0, and everyone was like, oh, this is the forward that Arsenal needed. So just curious on your thoughts to that hot take.
I don't think that's insulting to João Pedro, if we're being perfectly honest. Gabby Jesus won multiple titles with Manchester City. He came over. He was one of the first mega signings by Arteta to translate the kind of ethos of winning and team football that he learned from Pep at City to the Arsenal team. And if not for injuries, I think he arguably would probably still be the striker right up until Gyökeres arrived. So Gabby Jesus, I think that's a little harsh on the lad. He was very much a Premier League caliber striker for almost 10 years. If Chelsea are signing that for 60 million, and he can add a little bit more flair, because I think João Pedro is a more elite goal scorer than Gabby J ever was. That's a player that's easily 60 million in today's market, and we got him pretty much right as Newcastle did all the work. We slid in, we tempted the guy, he came in. Now he's a world champion. He's won his first trophy within 12 days of joining Chelsea. Hard to beat that.
All right, good to know. I wanted to make sure that I got that question in, because I think a few people like to compare the Brazilians and want Chelsea to fail. So had to ask you there. Let's keep it moving here, Bucks. What's next?
Yeah, Solanke is next. Dominic Solanke, coming off an injury-plagued season at Spurs. Last season, kind of Spurs in general had the injury bug for most of the campaign. I really, coming into the pricing, I thought he was the most obvious mispriced of the forwards. I thought he would be on penalties. He'd be nailed as the number 9. And then when Thomas Frank came in, he was almost among the first names in my team sheet, because Thomas Frank in his career absolutely gets the most out of the striker, the number 9 position. They deliver big results and big goal tallies. But the lad is fucking injured. So he went the whole 2 seasons in a row at Bournemouth without picking up a single injury and barely missing a minute. And he can't stay fit if his life depended on it now that he's at Spurs. So he's a stay away, 7.5 million. He will be in our thoughts at some point. I think just
should be on Pens.
If he's in your team, rip up the draft, start over. Yeah.
That's the big thing. I think later in the season, he will be on Pens for a team that should be pretty attacking. And like you said, Frank's teams, whether it's Ivan Toney, Vissa, those players have really performed well with 15 to 20 goals in the Premier League. So he's a good shout.
I'm nervous.
Healthy.
I'm nervous for Solanke. Sorry to jump on top of you there and mix our words. I'm a big boy here, so yes, you don't want to get this body slam, Brian. You're still fit and young with only one kid at home. So I think Richarlison, if he starts the season strong, right, he's going to be the starter game week 1. Solanke's going to have his work cut out. He's going to have his job taken by the old Pidgeotto.
All right, Richarlison 6.5, so could be interesting. Obviously, if you are in love with Brazilian players, to go with him. But yeah, Richarlison, what a weird player.
Yeah, hopefully Dallas isn't marketing the Brazilian wax treatment in his church group. Let's move on to the next player, Chris Wood, the big Kiwi. Me and him have the same body type, but he's much better at the old footy than your boy Bucks is.
He is.
He's expected to lead the line. Has penalties for Forest, coming off by far his best season. Brian, season. You had Wood all season, it seemed like, right?
You know what? He was never a sexy pick, and I just held him for like 25 game weeks last season. And who would have guessed that this lad would have a 20-goal season in it when he's like 33? But to be honest, like, even if he goes down to 15 goals, I think he's still a great value, because he's going to mop up a lot of bonus. He only takes a couple shots a game, so 8 and 9 pointers is his specialty. And I still expect him to be plodding along and get in the right positions. When you look at his log, though, I mean, it's crazy that a player at Burnley who was stuck there for so long and was still like moderately FPL relevant through stretches because of being on Pens and playing a lot of minutes, that he would just have that renaissance last year and play nearly 3,000 minutes. So, Chris Wood, they have the opening fixture. So I've seen him in a fair amount of teams to start the season. So, I don't blame anybody going for him early doors. I just think that with losing Alanga, who had double-digit assists last year, that's
most of them to Chris Wood,
loss. Right? So, I'm not sure about this new guy. What's his name? Dan the Man? I forget who's coming in here.
Ndoye.
Don't know anything about him. Can't say I've done my research there, so I'll have to see it on the pitch for a few matches. I will be staying away from Wood, but I could get Wood at any time, Bucks.
Oh my God, we're going off the rails here. We need to plug Dan's OnlyFans account at this point with some of the sexual innuendo that's coming off. One thing to say about Chris Wood, even last season,
you're the one saying phrases like coming off.
Oh my goodness. Even last season, when he had by far and away his best season, I think he was averaging like less than 2 shots a game. So it was really like, if the ball goes in the back of the net, he's getting a 9-pointer. If it doesn't, he's getting a 2-pointer. And there wasn't really much messy in the middle between those two. So I think he is a player to watch. I wish I had a little more funds to bring him in because, again, he will have penalties. And he's the starter. He's probably, if not for Morgan Gibbs-White, he's the talisman for Forest. So I think
he's a good pick. The first 6 game weeks are great. So I think I can't fault any team that has him in it. I think he's just a solid pick.
Yeah. He's Mr. Reliable, whereas I feel like maybe João Pedro is a little more of the exciting upside pick. You agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Next up.
Yeah, now we have some interesting players here that really excelled last year. Vissa, 7.5.
20 goals last season?
20 goals currently at Brentford. Could he end up replacing Isak at Newcastle? Could he play someplace else? I just have no idea what's gonna happen with him. Is he gonna take penalties? Possibly. I think most of the FPL community is hoping that he leaves, and so that Thiago at 6.0, who's a player we'll talk about a little bit later, could take pens and then be a cheaper enabler for our front lines. But Vissa is a proven commodity. Now, I was impressed with their link up, specifically with Bumo and him last season, but he's pretty good in the air. He gets a lot of big chances. He played a ton of minutes. I think he's a good pick even at 7.5, but I think most people will want to see what this new era of Brentford looks like before putting him into your FPL side. So definitely a stay away for game week 1 for me.
Yeah, great point. I mean, last season he was third only behind Salah and Isak from a conversion perspective on XG and expected returns. This lad was massively in form, and anytime Bumo put the ball on the plate for him, he was delivering goals. So I think he's a great player. He's a little long in the tooth. I think he's turning 29 in the middle of this season. If he makes a move to Newcastle, he'll all of a sudden be very fantasy relevant, I expect. So he's definitely one to watch, one of those dominoes that could fall in this forward bracket.
Where is he from? Is he going to be playing in AFCON?
I think he's Cameroonian. Maybe I'm mistaken.
The Congo.
So he'll probably miss time. Let's go. Next one. Jean-Philippe Mateta. Now, he's at Palace. He's nailed to lead the line right there. Sometimes he even finds himself taking penalties. And I just think he's a player that was absolutely transformed by the new coach, Glasner, coming in just over 2.5 seasons ago for the Crypt Keeper, Roy Hodgson, who was dead weight in our hearts and on the sidelines for Crystal Palace. So, I mean, the top choice backup for Mateta right now, Nketiah, is out for 2 months with a big injury.
Necktie.
Mateta's having a banger of a preseason.
Yep.
If the Palace fixtures were just a little bit better, I feel like he would be massively owned in FPL. But the fixtures, they're just putting me off. What say you? You like Mateta?
It's kind of an interesting proposition to look at because if Eze would move to either Spurs or Arsenal, for example, then Mateta would be on pens. But at the same time, I think he would be
who's
probably
getting him
worse.
The ball then? Yeah,
he'd probably be way worse because then you just have Sarr and him, and then nobody on the left. Like who even plays when Eze doesn't? Like I don't even know who's the left wing there. Can you name a backup? I can't. So it could be rough if Eze were to leave. So yeah, we'll just put him at the 9. Yeah, so I think he's an interesting player. He goes through stretches where he'll score 6 goals in 4 matches, which you do like for FPL because you could try and time that purple patch, and we've seen that in the past. So not a game week 1 starter for me, but somebody that I'll clearly be considering on my random free hit in random times that I see them with a good fixture run. But right now, I just want to see them get off the blocks early and often this season. I feel like the last 2 seasons they've just really slowed down out of the gates, where I would have expected them to kind of be ramped up. And like Eze last year, a lot of us are scarred because he did so poorly. And then the last 2 seasons, he's finished the last 10 game weeks really strongly. So we'd like to see a little bit more balance for both of them to have breakout seasons.
Yeah, one funny thing, and this maybe you'll give me some therapy right now and tell me if this is an insane way to
How
play,
much you
but
paying me per hour as your
not
therapist?
enough, baby, not enough. I look at Chris Wood and Mateda's fixtures, and listen, Chris Wood, the Forest fixtures to start are brilliant, and Mateda, outside that Chelsea match, they're not terrible either. But because both of them are playing Chelsea in the first five, I'm like, I'm not going to do that to myself. So for that reason alone, they're a no for me, dog.
Yep. All right. The next player I think is very interesting, and that's Evan Nilsson at Bournemouth, coming into his second season in the Premier League. Got a ton of big chances, didn't convert them as high as we would have liked last season, but Bournemouth last year was a top 6 or 7 attack in the Premier League and had that stretch of about 2 months where they were taking everybody to the sword, Excalibur style. So, kind of curious on your outlook here. He's probably not on pens, but then when you think about the Dutchman, what's his name?
Clivert.
Clivert. He hasn't played at all in the preseason, so he could start the season on pens, and maybe if he hits 1 or 2 of them, he keeps them. I don't know. We'll see as the 9, but he's a talented player. I think he's been a great addition to the Premier League. I just kind of curious, outside of their game week 1 fixture versus Liverpool, they actually have a great run. So, what are your thoughts on Evan Nilsson at 7? But why is he the only forward
Yeah,
at 7?
so
So
this is
stupid.
confounding to me. He is a single player priced here. I think he's the only one where there's only one guy in the
Bizarre.
whole game at forward that's 7 million, and it's Evan Nilsson. So for that reason alone, I think he's kind of a hard player to pick because unless you're keeping funds or you're planning a double move, kind of become stuck there if anything goes awry. So I actually, like I said on the last podcast for midfielders, I really rate the opening Bournemouth fixture run. I think the game at Liverpool is putting a lot of managers off, including myself, from picking Evan Nilsson. Now, if I was confident, let's say that I wanted to go João Pedro, Evan Nilsson, and say, I don't know, Danny Welbeck, who we're going to talk about in a second, right? And I could bench Evan Nilsson in game week 1, I would absolutely do that. But I just think the psyche of having one of your 7 million pound players riding the bench to start the season just feels wrong. So for that reason, I think that Evan Nilsson will for sure be in our FPL thoughts at course points in the season. But he's probably still in the grinder, for game week 1. At least that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's interesting. He was one of the top 5 underperforming XG players last season.
Yeah, I saw that alongside Jackson and some other Chelsea lads.
And DCL also in the top 5. No surprise there. And then Cameron Archer and Eddie and Ketia. So just interesting to see that, if he could maybe be a little bit more clinical in his second season, he could reap the rewards. But it's just a weird price point. I don't like that they should have priced him at 7.5 or 6.5 and give us.
Well, I will say, he doesn't really have a backup. So I think in that way, especially if Ouattara Dango leaves, right? I mean, Evan Nilsson, he's gonna get 3,000 minutes this season. So if you are thinking about a late wild card, I mean, Evan Nilsson, if you can stomach maybe starting a defender over him in game week 1, just as an example, I actually love the pick. I wish there was one other player priced at 7 million. Yep. That way there's like a little built-in off-ramp.
Yep. All right, let's talk about some of the guys in the 6-5 bracket. I think we can really just whittle this down to Danny Welbeck at Brighton, JSL at Wolves, and Nico Jackson at 6.5, because he is rumored to potentially be someone who could replace Isak and has that kind of pedigree of playing in some bigger competitions. So of those,
and we already talked about Richarlison, so that's enough fun. The Pigeon Man. Let's start with Jackson. I think he has the most potential FPL value if the move to Newcastle goes off. Worth mentioning, I love me a Chelsea player, but he's right now solidly third choice in the pecking order for their forward line. And it doesn't help that he suspended game week 1 for that silly red card he took at Newcastle, the straight red card there. So either way, he should not be in your team to start the season just due to that fact entirely. But I expect that he will have FPL relevance if he goes to Newcastle. I don't think it's crazy to say that maybe he even ends up on penalties to get his confidence up with Gordon out. If Isak's gone, I mean, I don't think you're going to give it to like Tonali or Guimarães.
Nah, Shar is the donger. Shar's on Ben.
Oh my goodness. You love Shar.
I do love him. A little Swiss lad.
He's going to break your heart one of these days. He's going to turn your heart into shards, so to speak.
Very nice.
Yeah. I think Nico Jackson, he has, in this group, he's the only player that I think could get to 20 goals, excuse me.
I mean, 20. 15. That's a lot. 15's a good mark for him. You would expect the Newcastle funneling of kind of their attack to get him a lot of chances if he were to go there. And he's a fit guy. Like, he definitely makes the runs. He's offside a bunch, but I think when you see a lot of the Newcastle performances that are 4-0 at home, sure, he could grab 2 of those. Like, we've seen him get double digits before. So, yeah,
I know. I'm nervous to say this, Brian, because I know I'm just going to get absolutely blasted in the comment section. But he has shades of Alexander Isak in him. I know the finishing could not be further away. I mean, he's closer to Darwin than he is to Isak when it comes to finishing. But if you see some of the runs he makes, some of the ways that he collects the ball at the halfway line and plays in other guys, like he did quite a few times for Palmer last season, I mean, he has some of the tools for an elite striker. He just hasn't quite put it all together as of yet. So,
yeah,
again, he's not on my radar for FPL just yet. But if he stays in the Prem, I think he will be in many teams come game week 8, let's say.
He's a player who's getting a XGI 2 out of 3 games that he plays. So pretty high. Like, he's definitely a player that's involved over the last couple seasons. So it'll be interesting to see if he does get a move and comes into our thoughts later on. But the next player we want to talk about instead of Nico Jackson, for me, is Strand Larsen, JSL. Ooh. The Norwegian, trying to compete with some of the other Nordic types of strikers out there. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on JSL? Had a really impressive performance next to Cunha, and so I'm just a little bit worried about his service this year. Is he going to be able to be a out and out, the tip of the spear and get a lot of these chances when there's going to be more focus on him potentially this season?
Yeah, so JSL, he's nailed. He's going to be the out-and-out striker each and every game week. He's the central target man for Wolves.
How old is he? Like 21? How old is he?
He's not even anywhere close to his prime. I expect that he will not be on penalties. I think John Arias will be on penalties and will be.
He's got a little bit of a baby face for a 25-year-old.
So listen, I think he's an excellent value pick. Most of the negatives and the downside risk for JSL is not his fault. It's actually the team around him. And I think that without Cunha and without Rian Aït-Nouri, 2 of their best creative chance monsters from last season, where unfortunately they ranked in the bottom 5 in the Premier League for total chances and goals, this season might be even more bleak than that. So I think for me, JSL is not on the menu. I just think Wolves are going to struggle in that opening match against Manchester City. And I don't know. I think they're going to be hard pressed to score 3 goals in many matches all season. That being said, JSL made me look pretty stupid at the end of last season where he just banged in goal after goal after goal, one after the other, when Cunha was out missing. So the guy clearly can do it. Again, if he has penalties, 6.5 million, yum, you almost auto pick him. But I think there's still a lot of doubt based on what we've seen from Wolves this preseason and the lack of reinforcements that they've brought in to kind of strengthen the side that was nearly in a relegation battle for most of the season. So,
yeah, 14 goals that's a pretty impressive tally for
it's amazing.
One of his first.
You realize how good that is? I mean, the whole Wolves team probably only scored like 48 goals, 50 goals. I mean, he came right off.
I would say less.
Came right off the boat into England, and he just got his goal scoring boots on. Yep. He was very impressive.
All right, cool. And then Danny Welbeck at Brighton. He's an old head. He's one of the few players who stays at Brighton for a long time. Came back to Brighton.
Yeah, he'll be on penalties. I think that's kind of the reason you pick Welbeck is he has penalties. And at least to start the season, he's nailed because the reinforcements Brighton brought in are kids.
Yep.
I really like this Greek guy that they brought in who could be the potential challenger.
You love your Greeks. You love your Greeks.
I am married to one, and her family is very enthusiastic about the kid they brought in to challenge Welbeck. But that's going to be a mid-season at best kind of situation. So, I just think Brighton are one of the hardest teams to gauge game in and game out. They're very deep. They are not loyal to any starting 11 or system. And and the fixtures aren't great. So for me, Welbeck, he's not in my thoughts. You agree?
Let's just stop talking about Brighton players. There's only one player for me from Brighton this season, and it might be De Kuiper. Otherwise, I'm going to try and stay away from all of their assets because they just give me painful moments in FPL.
You might de-tempted, you're saying, by De Kuiper?
Yep, that's right. All right. Budget bin, Bucks, 6.0 and less. Will any of these players be on penalties? Because that would definitely boost their appeal for making my potential bench boost squad early doors. But I think all eyes are on Igor Thiago, 6 million, Brentford lad. He was the most expensive signing in Brentford history. Comes in, busts his shit. We don't see him play at all. And obviously Vissa had a fantastic season. It's kind of crazy that even Vissa was coming off the bench scoring goals when Tony was there. So interesting to see if this guy can come in and work with the new set piece coach, became manager.
Who's the head coach? Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you thinking now? You think this guy
he's very physical. This Thiago guy, listen, I watched the tape. It was kind of like you didn't get any tape from last season, so you had to go all the way back in the archives to find the kind of highlights from the transfer
archives.
Yeah, so listen, very physical, very good in the air. He's kind of like a classic old school number 9. But Brentford's scouts, they are all about the analytics, and the analytics really seem to like this Thiago kid. So what do I know? I mean, I'm just a lowly podcaster that, works in sales and in real estate. I'm not a professional scout the way that these guys are, and I'm not deep into the numbers to the level they are. But they broke the bank for this player for a reason. And so it really becomes FPL gold if Vissa leaves, because you get this guy and he's fit and he's going to be the nailed number 9 on penalties. I mean, you don't break the transfer record for your club that just made it to the Premier League for the first time in 75 years, if you're not going to give him serious minutes. So I actually think he could play alongside Vissa. Probably that's not a popular opinion, but all signs seem to think that Vissa could be leaving. He hasn't been playing in some of their preseason matches. This Thiago guy seems to be fit, but Brentford, they could also suck. So the dream is the penalties and dream is the nailedness. Whether the team around him is any good is kind of the harsh reality.
I don't mind if they suck. I mean, there's plenty of gems to be had in the bottom 7 teams of the Premier League. That's so, if you look at West Ham taking like 16th or whatever, Bone was still an absolute stud. So if this guy's going to have a high goal share, be on pens, play 90 minutes, those are ticking a lot of boxes for him to be included in my team. So
one thing I want to mention, Brian, do you feel this way also? Looking at this rundown, I thought this was kind of what made it so difficult. This is definitely the largest budget bin we've ever had at the forward market. In seasons past, there's at least been one guy at 6 million who was like proven good. And
that's the word. That's the word that I would agree is not here right now. When you're looking at Thiago, you got Barry at Everton, comes over from Villarreal. You have Fulkrug, who has been proven our age, at Dortmund, but he's 35, hasn't stayed fit. And then there's a few other players that you're just like, are they going to be on the team come game week 3? I have no idea if Beto or Muniz at Everton and Fulham are going to be playing. So we just need somebody to emerge. And obviously there will be cheap guys that come out of nowhere. Who's the lad on on Leeds, Perot, like if he stays and he's on pens, I've seen him in a few teams, and I don't
Yeah,
think
5.5 million.
Yeah, I think like you're just kind of want one of these cheap guys to be on pens, and then you could rotate him in a couple of the nicer fixtures and then bench him if not. But I feel like benching a 6.0 player is
Oh,
like
it feels
less than ideal.
gross. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like in my head, I'm like, I want to bench a 5.5 and lower each week. So I don't know. It's one of those
I
price
agree
point
with that.
things.
From a structure perspective, you want to have as much of your funds in your starting 11 as possible,
And
unless you're
like
bench
when we're
boosting.
looking at all these 6.0 and 5.5 forwards who are just trash, you look at Van Dyke, Saliba, you're looking at Aiton Nori, Vardiol. Those guys are 150, 170 point upside players with the new rules. Whereas these guys, I'm like, they could end up in 80 points. I wouldn't be surprised if that
Some of these
happens.
guys, if they got 80 points, that would be a mini miracle.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Crazy.
jumping down the list, you talked about some of the guys unproven in the 6 million category. I mean, 5.5 million feels like a better price bracket for a dart throw. It's Beto, who he's going to be the game week 1 striker option for Everton. They open their new stadium, very physical. He has the LeBron James celebration. He had some
But then,
moments last
but then
season.
Moyes came out and said, "I don't like him." Did you see that?
Yeah, Moyes.
That happened
I
a couple
thought
days ago.
Moyes
It's like,
loved him, and then he went and got this challenger in from Villarreal for big bucks.
yeah, so
I think
weird.
he's going to be the starter to start this season. He won't be on penalties. We already know that. But the real dream that I have is that this Rodrigo Muniz guy who popped up almost out of nowhere at Fulham a season and a half ago, where he just came in, I think in his first 8 games, he had a goal, which was pretty
Yeah, went
amazing.
on a big run.
And he is rumored to be a primary target for Leeds. And I feel like if he moves to Leeds, he will just eat that Perot guy's lunch. Gus Perot wasn't a very good politician, and I don't think this Perot guy is a very good striker at Leeds. And I think Muniz, he has the chops to be a Premier League caliber striker. If he stays put at Craven College, fuck off, man. You're not getting minutes. So
Yeah, and
the
Jimenez is
dream could be
aging
alive
there.
there.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like Fulham's like good enough to like put up a fight and try and get to the European football when they're playing their best, but at what point do you just hand the reins over from Jimenez to Muniz and like, are you the guy or not? Otherwise, we need to go purchase another striker. And so they're kind of in a
And
weird
they're
transition
not
phase.
signing anyone. I mean, like
Yeah.
your team is basically the same as it was last season.
Yep.
And you're still riding it out with like a 33-year-old striker with his eyes on featuring for Mexico in the World Cup. It doesn't make sense. I think they should pass the baton, and they're not going to go down. They're not probably going to go to Europe. So give the lad who could be, the future of your team the minutes. That's what I think.
Most importantly, though, Chelsea's own Mark Guiu just heading over to Sunderland. 4.5 could get some minutes, could eventually be the starters, the young Spanish lad. So what are we thinking here? Is he locked in your side? Is he the enabler that gets you in? He's just a gift.
He's a gift. I mean, I think this Mayenda guy, who's priced a little bit more expensive, will be the game week 1 striker. But there's a total different level of pedigree between Guiu, however you pronounce his name, Mark Guiu, and this Mayenda guy.
Sticky and gooey.
Yeah, one of them's coming from the Barcelona La Masia Academy, then got poked by Chelsea before his, transfer money could go up to a certain level where it was going to be sky high because they wanted to protect him. So he's kind of like in the top tier of top leagues level talent. And he's going into a team that's kind of joining the Premier League for the first time in ages. So I think very comfortably by the second international break, game week 8, he'll be the starter. I expect he could have penalties. I mean, this guy scored a first half hat trick in the UECL against Shamrock Rovers. I mean, that's just as good as anyone Sunderland were playing against last season. He scored for Barcelona in the UCL as an 18-year-old. He's now 19. I think he's a real player. And so I think he's kind of the gem, 4.5 million mana from the heavens that we're receiving for FPL this season. Just slot him in, keep him third bench. At some point, probably around when you use your first wild card, He'll still be 4.5 million. He'll still be in your team, and you'll be able to reap the benefits at that point. That's my thinking.
Yeah, I want to use him on bench boost because he kind of ticks two boxes. He might play, and then also I don't have to worry about transferring him out or him just being a problem in my team. He can be my last bench player. Maybe if he starts to get minutes, he could creep up his way on my bench. But I think he, along with the players on Burnley, like we're going to hopefully have Dubravka, we have Guiu, we have
Broja,
Steve. There's some players that are very cheap that could help you not only hit your bench boost, you're not going to get a ton of points, but then you can continue to focus your transfers and keep it moving on with the rest of your starting 11. So that's why I love him. I'm glad he's there for us. The only other player here at 4.5 is Krupi Jr. Don't know a ton about him, but he is a player that people are pretty excited with. I think he's 18 or 19 years old playing at Bournemouth. And if anybody gets injured there, he could be thrown into the fire.
Like if Dango leaves and Clivert is not yet fully fit for the season, I expect Krupi Jr. actually will be a better pick for early bench boost than Guiu, the Guiu man, just because, again, Sunderland have a guy. They have Mayenda, whereas, Bournemouth, if injuries or fitness kind of hack into their depth, Krupi Jr. is the depth, so he's going to get minutes.
And I will have to say, I've been impressed with Bournemouth's scouting department. They've just sold 3 of their best defenders that they've kind of, had over the last couple of years to the top 5 teams in all of Europe, which is super impressive. I did not know Zabarny was a $70 million player. That shocked me for a second. Then I was like, oh yeah, I guess he's only 22.
He's a kid, yeah.
And then even in Semenyo a couple of seasons was 4.5 million striker in fantasy, and he's obviously become a much more relevant player, has grown with the club. And so if this Krupi Jr. guy could be a little gem later in the season, we need more cheap options. So one to watch.
I think just one closing point. I think, looking through this and chatting it out with you here, I think that the forward option is actually the part that really puts me off that early bench boost, because the options for certainty of minutes and that kind of cheap enabler doesn't really feel like it exists in such a clear and concrete way at this point in the season.
I just can't be arsed with the bench boost. Everyone's making such a big deal with it. I would rather, without double game weeks,
there's a non-0% chance that Guiu will get 0 points and 0 minutes in game week 1 and game week 2. He's coming into a new.
But he can also sit on your bench, and game week 8, if your team looks all right, then you could bench boost with him. And
of course, I'm talking about the kind of early game week 1, game week 2 bench boost.
Yeah, the dream is game week 2. He's the starter. Game week 2, he's the starter. That's my dream for my bench boost. Otherwise, I'll probably delay it. But he's a lock in my game week 1 squad right now, and I just think ultimately I want to be playing more 4-4-2. 3-5-2 probably as well. I just think the value in defense, especially at these cheap brackets, is something that the math is tilting that way. So we're going to see different formations this year, and I'll have the dead spot in my strike force. I got to
ask you, Brian. I got to ask you. You didn't say 4-5-1, and I know the Twitter #FPL community actually is a very small contingent of the overall game. I'm not really seeing a lot of managers leaning towards that 4-5-1 option. And I think that if you go Mark Guiu and let's say you go Evan Nielsen, maybe the answer game week 1 is to just go 4-5-1 and then bring in Evan Nielsen as your second guy who rotates well with your 4th defender or your 5th defender, excuse me. And you play him game week 2 to game week 8, and then you think about the wild card there. So the forwards is really, I think, the hardest part of the equation to lock in on in order to get your game week 1 team feeling like it's in a place where you're excited to attack the season ahead. You agree on that?
Look, I think Pross the GOAT at the FPL Wire, he's looking at the 4-5-1. So
he is. Wow.
He's known as one of the best managers out there. That was the nicest
thing you've said to me all night, man.
Yeah,
I'm almost as smart as Prass. Wow. I might go to my grave with that.
Yeah, once you get your first top 10K finish, then I'll think about you in the same light. But
my goodness, this guy.
Yeah, I think no, defense is just those cheap guys. There's so much more value in defense versus the midfielders in attack. So looking forward to seeing some of the different formations being rolled out. But All right, Bucks, we've gone long here just because it's earlier in the nights. I know our midfield mania podcast would have gone longer, but your wifey was like, kick this Brian guy out of here. He's too loud. You're waking up the kids.
Kick him to the curb. Let him sleep outside in the rain. That's what she was saying.
In my new J's that I was gifted by you.
All right, let's get out of here. This has been the conclusion of our positional preview podcasts. You can find us on socials and wherever you listen to podcasts. We are at FPL USA Press Play. If you were one of the nice families that I gifted stickers to at the playground today, I hope you're tuning in and enjoying your first taste of the FPL USA Press Play podcast. I'm Bucks. That's Brian. And again, we would love if you joined our free to enter prize mini league. The code is lowercase PELL04. You will get a weekly shout out if you're the top scorer, and the top 3 finishers will get free Premier League kits of your choosing at the end of the season. And there will probably be a cash prize involved for the cup winners, which will cement the plan on later.
Wow, Bucks, you're pulling more money out of my pocket. We better grow this year for the pod.
We better. This is our year. Again, follow us on YouTube if you haven't already. We'd love to hit the 150 subscriber mark come game week 1. Setting a little stretch goal there for us, Brian. And again, we're on your airwaves every game week from here on in. We will be dropping our game week 1 preview where we actually go through our conceptual game week 1 teams together with Dan at FPL_Blackwolf, the biggest Wolves fan in all of America. And we're really excited to do that later this week. So, Brian, it's been a great pod with you. Why don't you get us the hell out of here so I can go back to my family?
That's right, Bucks. I would say if you are interested in getting involved with us, just follow us on social. We're going to be posting for a lot of #FPL community questions, and especially ahead of the Game Week 1 preview when we're going to have Black Wolf on as well. We'll dive through all your different questions. They can be team specific. They can be this set of players versus another. We'll rate your team. We'll do it all in the Game Week 1 preview. So please engage with us on social when we call for questions, and we can't wait to be back with you soon.